theories on the hair test, you need a DDI hair elements test. But what I saw on my non-DDI hair elements test was enough for me, enough of an indication that I could be indeed profoundly mercury toxic. So I decided to start chelation, because Andrew Hall Cutler says that depending on how you will react to the chelators, this is a very good test, a very good predictor whether you are mercury toxic or not. And he also says what is very, very important is to do chelation in a very specific manner. He says there's only 3 true chelators, that's ALA, alpha-lipoic acid, DMSA, and DMPS. But what is very, very important is that you respect the half-lives of those chelators when you take them. With ALA, it's 3 hours, 3 to 4, you can stretch it out to 4 during the night. With the DMSA, it's also 3 to 4 hours. With the DMPS, it's 6 to 8 hours. So what that means is that if you take ALA, you have to take the compound every 3 hours, night and day. And you do it in rounds. So a round is a 3 days, 72 hours, which you divide into 3 hours. And for those 72 hours, you take the chelator every 3 hours, if it's ALA or DMSA. If it's DMPS, you take those 72 hours and divide them in either 6 or 8 hour intervals, and you take the chelator every 6 or 8 hours. So I decided to start with ALA, and it was super cheap. It was like a bottle of ALA with 100 milligram capsules cost me, I think, $10 at Whole Foods Market. So and I started with 20 milligram dosages. So what I would do is I would open a capsule and divide it into 5 compartments in my pill planner, something like that. And then I would, even out the dosages so that I would think, I had more or less 20 milligrams per dosage. And I started doing that. And that was in September 2013. And I had a very strong and profound reaction to that first round. And what I felt was, first, my throat started to hurt. It became like sore and raw. And my fatigue got much, much worse all of a sudden. And but my head at the same time became clearer. And so for me that was a very strong indication that I indeed was mercury poisoned, and I decided to continue with it. And in fact, those reactions, the sore throat, the fatigue, that all was coming and going depending on whether I was on round or off round. Because basically, what is off round? Being off round means you're doing a break in between those the rounds. So you first do 72 hours of a round when you take the chelator, and then you do a break of another at least 72 hours. And after that, you start another round when you take chelators, and after that, you do a break of 72 hours, and so on and so forth. So, right, so I started doing this in September through 2013, and now it's September 2014. So I have been chelating now for a good 11 months, because there was also a break of over a month, when I did not chelate. And in that time, I've been getting continuously better. My energy levels have continuously improved, which is so awesome. I mean, I'm not completely recovered, but the improvement is dramatic and profound and definitely there. Like I can be busy all day running errands and yeah, and just do things and not getting exhausted. And so, yeah, and also my head has become much clearer in the sense that what I was suffering from starting in March 2013 was at the same time when the fatigue knocked me out, it became for me very, very difficult to concentrate on just to concentrate. So it would be as near as impossible for me to read a difficult text. So I would literally spend days just watching stupid TV shows, and that was after 10 years of not having watched any TV. And now I found myself, sitting in front of the computer and just rewatching and watching old TV shows, stupid rom-coms, or just reading celebrity news. Apparently that was all that my mind was able to absorb. And that's after 3 months of chelation, there seemed to have been a break where my concentration improved and my ability to focus and to read more complicated texts. And okay, so let me list here the things that have improved since starting the Andrew Cutler chelation protocol. So as I said, fatigue improved greatly, my ability to concentrate and focus, my motivation to do things. Like before I would fall in those phases of total procrastination, where there was no motivation, no joy, no wanting to do anything. Adrenal fatigue has also improved dramatically. There's still some phases for me during the day, like for example, I still feel like a crash around 9 or 10 in the evening, and then I get again perked up, and then it still happens that I stay up until late at night. So that does happen. Also around noon, I sometimes have also a small crash, but it's not really as crushing. The crash is not as crushing as it used to be. So I can kind of force myself through it, whereas before it was just impossible. I just had to lie down. What has also improved is I started having this thing where shortly after falling asleep, I would wake up again. I would just become conscious all of a sudden, and I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep unless I ate something. So I often found myself chomping down some chicken or some steak at like 1 a.m. or anything between 1 and 4 a.m. in the morning. So I had to eat something in the middle of the night, otherwise it will be impossible for me to go to bed. And that will be every night, okay? And now that has improved as well. I can go on several nights in a row without having to do this. Also, another thing that has improved is debilitating migraines and extreme irritability during my menstruation. So the migraines also are not completely gone yet, and I also noticed that this is very, very closely related to whether I eat any foods which are rich in thiols or sulfur during like even weeks before menstruation. If I eat any thiol or sulfur-rich foods, the migraine just goes out of control during my menstruation. If I stay away from those foods, I'm pretty good. So those migraines have improved also greatly, and also the irritability. Another thing is what I mentioned before is this feeling of procrastination, that you always you just don't want to do stuff and you think, okay, I can do it later, and you always, put it away. That has improved also a lot. Then depression has also lifted, but the depression, I have to say, I only had it like during the first 3 months of chelation, and it was profound. It was, I mean, I would just fall into a deep, dark black hole, and when I would come out of it, then I would feel rage. Okay, so it was depression, or rage. It would I would just go through those two motions basically. Then another thing was stiff joints. Not pain in the joints, but just stiffness. It's like it was the sensation of like when I would sit down in a certain position for a longer time, and then I would get up. It would just take me a couple of steps to get my joints moving, and to just loosen them up so they were not stiff anymore. So that has improved as well. Right. So, but again, all those things have improved. They're not gone yet, but it seems that they're getting better and better every time, with every round. I'm on round 48. I'm on 5 milligrams of ALA and 25 milligrams of DMSA. Before that, I was on 12 milligrams of ALA and 12 milligrams of DMPS. So I switch it up a little bit, and I also keep adjusting the dosage because I still react very strongly, especially to the ALA. So yeah, so I'm still on it, and I'm improving, and it seems that I have finally found what very much could have been the core issue for my illness, for all my illness. So now looking back, I asked myself, have I ever had Lyme disease? And I still think I did, but I'm not 100% sure, because I've never taken a blood test. Why have I never taken a blood test is because I keep hearing that they're so unreliable that for me it just didn't make sense to spend a lot of money on something that would just not give me a definite answer. So I was mostly diagnosed by a doctor who listened to my symptoms and who knew my history, especially my history of a Lyme vaccine. I was vaccinated around, what is it now, I think 11 years ago. And during that 1 year after the vaccine, my body just started giving up. Like before, I was already sick before, but it was mostly neurological, cognitive, and emotional stuff. But after the vaccine, my joints gave up, and other things started happening as well. So that one doctor, Dr. Chandler Clark in New Rochelle, upstate New York, who was treating my knees with ozone injections, my painful knees, he said, when I told him I was vaccinated against Lyme, he said, most probably the vaccine gave you Lyme, And as a matter of fact, the vaccine has been taken off the market since, because there were so many adverse reactions to it and so many people coming down with rheumatoid arthritis and other symptoms, which made some doctors believe that vaccine actually gave the people Lyme bacteria. And also, 5 years ago, I benefited so profoundly from ozone that I think, yes, to some degree it must have been a bacterial infection or some sort of infection plus inflammation, because otherwise why would I have reacted so profoundly to it, right? And also my very first IV, it was an ozonated saline IV by Dr. Chandler Clark, triggered such a dramatic die-off reaction. I mean, I nearly fainted, and my body turned into, like, it was a sensation as if my body had turned into glass, into painful glass, and I